Hey everybody, this is Robert Monroe here, and we are going to do something a little crazy today. We are going to talk through how to play every single chord in existence. This is going to be a practical guide. I'm going to give you the goods on how to get familiar and spell and play all of them, every single chord. Well, what does that really mean? Well, we got to go through a few different steps to get there. The first thing we're going to have to do is figure out what the two parts of a chord is. The second is we're going to have to name a bunch of stuff. Names. The third thing is we're going to have to go over a bunch of approaches on how you actually find these notes. Are we going to use the intervals? Are we going to use scales? Are we going to use just rote memorization? How are we going to actually find out what these chords are? And then finally, we're going to discuss some edge cases. Some disclaimers. You're going to get the most out of this video if you find that you are an intermediate. If you know your way around your instrument a little bit, you know some basic songs, you know some basic techniques, that is really going to be who's going to get the most bang for their buck out of this. I'm not going to let this video turn into a long, lengthy thing where I break down every tiny little detail. If you want that, please ask for it, and then I might make up a follow-up video about whatever specific thing you're asking for. Now, let's get into it. A chord is two or more notes. If you want a more fancy definition, you're going to have to find it somewhere else. For this video, chords, two or more notes. It's made up of a quality and a root note. Let's first talk about that root note. So if I play a C major chord here, we call it C because C is the root note. G is the root note. B flat's the root note. What about this? Whoa, is it E? No, it's not E. It's actually A is the root note. Now, again, I'm not going to get into why. We don't care about why right now, but we care that A, whatever the name of the chord is, that's the root note. That's where the whole chord grows like a tree. Now, let's get into quality. Quality is going to be the color of the chord. That's major, minor, diminished, that whole business. You get what I mean? Let's talk names now. When we are doing this, we're going to go through fast. If you want, of course, pause, repeat the video. The whole point of this is to chuck a ton of information at you. You can absorb it as you will. And again, if you're still confused, comment. I will be happy to slow down and talk more in depth, but we do not have time in this video. So here we go. Triads. Triads are 3-note chords. You play a note, you skip again. Boom, that's a triad. Now, chords are built in tertiary harmony. So what does tertiary harmony mean? This is a great fancy buzzword to use with your friends. Tertiary means built in thirds. Now, why is that the case? I don't know. It's the same thing as like us being carbon-based life forms. Could we have been based on silicone? Maybe, but we're not. We're based in carbon, and music theory is based in tertiary harmony. So we just skip the whole way up. For triads, it's only 2 skips, 3 notes. We got 4 main types. We got major, we got minor, we got diminished, and we got augmented. Yep, there are exceptions, but that's all we're going to talk about for now. Let's go over to 7th chords. Hey, you know how we were doing 2 skips? Now do 3. And you're left with 4 notes. That's going to be a 7th chord. Why do we call a 7th chord? Well, 1, we skip 2, 3, we skip 4, 5, we skip 6. That note's a 7. Boom! 7th chord. We got 3 main types here. We have a major 7th. That's what this is. We have a minor 7th. That's what this is. And we have a dominant 7th. It's kind of a mixture of both. Yes, there's diminished 7ths and others, but they are way less common than these 3. We are basically done with all the names. And at this point, if you studied any jazz, you're probably screaming at me. And that is because you're going, what about ninths? What about 11ths? Sharp 11ths, altered, suspended. Well, all that stuff is super cool, and we will get into it a little bit at the end, but to be honest, it is not that important. It's kind of like the extra color that happens on icing on a cake. What we're really interested in is baking that really nice moist chocolate cake. That is the chords, that's the triads, that's the 7ths, and then all this extra stuff that can just be sprinkled on top. Let's get into methods of finding the notes. The first thing we're going to start with is the most powerful, but also the slowest and also the most work, and that is the interval method. Now, this interval method is just moving half steps through the piano and spelling up the chord that way. How do you spell half steps? This is super important. Pay attention. We're not counting letters. When we were counting through the notes of the chord, remember how we said 1, 3, 5, 7? That's counting by letters. C, D, E, right? 1, 2, 3. If you notice, we count this note there. But we're not doing that here. What we're doing here is we're actually counting half steps, which is a distance, an interval. So we're going to start here. We're going to say nothing, or you can say 0 if you want to be clever. Then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. That's 4 half steps right there. 1, 2, 3, that's 3 half steps. Guess what? We just spelled a major triad. It has a major third at the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it has a minor third, 1, 2, 3. Boom, major triad. Well, what if we want to make it minor? Boom, we change the middle note, now it's minor. 1, 2, 3, a minor third first, that's 3 half steps, then 1, 2, 3, 4, a major third second, that is a minor triad. What about augmented, you say? Well, we go ahead and we spell 2 major thirds. Let's pick somewhere a little bit harder. Let's start on G sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom! We got an augmented triad. Fun fact, there are actually only 1, 2, 3, 4. Because when we get back here, you notice something. It's the same chord. All right. Now we got one more triad, and then we're going to move on, and that is diminished. We have diminished right here. Let's do it someplace else. Let's pick F sharp. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom! Diminished triad. Minor thirds all around. Let's fast forward to 7th chords. Again, I told you I was going to move fast, and that is because I want to give you everything in this video. You can slow it down. You can ask questions, but I'm going to keep moving. We've got a major 7th here. That is a major triad. See that? Major triad plus a major 7th. The major 7th can be found by going up another major third from the 5th. But sometimes the 5th changes, and also it's really annoying to spell this many notes. So what I like doing is get the major triad first, and then go a half step down from the root. So the root is the C, half step down, boom, we have a C major 7. Let's do E flat. So we start on E flat, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we've got our 4th here. Sorry, not 4. Our 4 half steps, our major third. Then we have 3 here. 1, 2, 3. That's our major triad. Then we want to find that major 7th. So we're going to start on E flat, go down 1. That's our D. Put it on top. Boom! Major 7th. I'm going to stop saying boom because it's getting annoying for me for sure. It's kind of like finding a speed run in Mario Kart where instead of going the lap the normal way, you just turn around, you go backwards for a second, you collect a checkpoint because the game was not smart enough to realize people will just go backwards. You collect that checkpoint, you go through, the lap counts, all your friends are pissed at you, but hey, you won the race, and that's the important part. Let's go over to minor triads. And really what I mean is minor 7ths. They're built with minor triads. So we have a minor triad plus a minor 7th. The trick with minor 7ths, it's a whole step below the root. What is a whole step, you might say? Well, it's actually just 2 half steps. 1, 2. That's it. Let's do one for fun here. E minor. Why not? E minor 7. So we're going to start on E. Then we're going to go up 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our minor triad. And then a whole step below the root. 1, 2. That's D. Boom. We got our minor 7th. I said I'd stop saying boom. I said it one more time. We're no more booms this video. Dominant 7th now. We got our A7 here. I just slapped it down, but let me tell you how it works. It's a major triad plus a minor 7th. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3, you could think of the minor 7th as being a minor third higher than the 5th, or whole step below the root. It's A, 1, 2, that's G, put it on top. Let's find another one. How about D flat 7? Because dominant 7ths are just called 7th chords, by the way. So we start on D flat, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, that's our major third. Then we go 1, 2, 3, that's our minor third. And then we go a whole step below the root. 1, 2, boom. We got our dominant seventh. All right, let's get into two less common seventh chords. That is going to be a diminished seventh. That is all minor thirds. So let's start on G. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Why do we call it a diminished seventh? Because if you notice, the seventh now is a minor third below the root, not a whole step like a minor seventh or a half step like a major seventh. Fun fact about these are the ones I was thinking of earlier. There are only 3 of these in existence because it is a symmetrical chord. There's this one, and there's this one. After that, they are all inversions of each other. How about half diminished seventh chords? This is when you have a diminished triad plus a minor seventh. That is what we get. Let's build one on, let's say, D. So we start here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's our diminished triad. And then we add on a minor seventh, whole step below the root. That's C. We put it on top. We've got ourselves a half diminished seventh. With this very slow and brain-intensive method, you're going to get every chord right, but it is going to take a long time. I know I'm moving laser fast, but I can tell you right now, you do a jazz chart like this, it may take you 2 hours to get all the chords spelled. It may take you literally that long. Are you going to be able to do this effectively on a gig? No, you're not. And are you going to be able to get every note right like I'm doing? Probably not, because it is so brain intensive. So let's talk about this second method. The second method is going to use scales and understanding how scales define which notes go in a chord. So let's say we're playing Wagon Wheel and we're in the key of A major. Let me get the notes right. I'm going way too fast. So we have our A major scale. And again, intermediate video. Sorry, I'm not going to explain how to play an A major scale. It's just there. Now we're going to build some triads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Whoa, did you see that? All I did was I skipped, but I did it on every scale degree. Extra bonus points if you talk about the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not in the context of this video, but super easy way to learn how to play pop music. This gives us the qualities for all those chords in that key. Why is that helpful? Well, Wagon Wheel starts on A major, then goes to E major, then goes to F sharp minor, then D major. Let's say you knew A major, piece of cake chord, right? Then you go to E major, and you may be like, how does E major go? Well, if I know I'm in the key of A major, I know E is always going to be natural. G, though, is always going to be sharp. So I'm never going to play this G natural in a song in A major. I'm going to play this G sharp. The B is going to be natural because it's natural in the key. That's going to be our choice. Then let's say we go to F sharp minor. A lot of people struggle with finding the notes in F sharp minor. I'm not going to struggle, though, because I know that F sharp is in the key of A major. A is in the key of A major. It's not going to be C, though. It's going to be C sharp. Why do I know that? Because I am the key of A major, and those are the accidentals in that key. You might go, but how do I know this? Well, it's just knowing the keys and the scales. So if you know the scales well, this is a great method. Also, you can memorize the qualities that go with each scale degree. 1 is major, 2 is minor, 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 is minor, and 7 is diminished. One last tidbit about this, you can work in reverse now and use this to even find out which chords are in a song that you've never heard before. Because let's say you hear one chord that's major, then another chord that's major, and then another chord that's minor. That's pretty much always going to be 4, 5, 6. Why is that the case? Well, there's only one place in the major scale where there are 2 major chords right next to each other, and that's 4 and 5. All right, that was a bonus tip. You're going to have to pay me a little bit extra for that, but let's get into 7th chords before we move on. You can do the exact same thing with 7th chords. Let's go to a different key to spice things up. How about F major? So we're going to first go through F major, that 1 B flat in there. We have F major 7. Then we got G minor 7, then A minor 7, then B flat major 7, then C 7, then D minor 7, then E half diminished 7th, then F major 7 again. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So our qualities, again, just go blankly. Doesn't matter if we're in F or any key. It's major 7, minor 7, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, half diminished 7, and then back to 7. Again, very useful if we know the key. This is so nice, and you might go, wait, this sounds more complicated than the first method. But here's the cool thing about it. You already know a lot of scales if you've been playing music. And also, songs and chords do not happen in a vacuum. They're always based on something, and that something is typically a key. So if you know that, you can eliminate so much second guessing. And you might go, but what about the chords that aren't in the key? You know, what about these non-diatonic chords? Well, in general, there's logic to be followed there. So let's imagine a chord is actually based in like a minor, right? Like we're in A minor, which by the way is actually C major. So first of all, we're thinking all white keys. So we got our first chord A minor, then D minor, and then it says E, which by the way, if triads just say E, they mean major. They don't just mean some magical different chord. You just are implied that it's major. So you play this and you go, oh, that didn't sound quite right. And then you go, I know, it said major. So then, yes, you do have to do a little bit more work. You get that there. But you're almost always going to have a different sound, a striking sound to our ears that's going to cue us in. And then we're going to have to do that little bit adjustment. And yes, we might have to pull in from that brute force method to get some of those chords. The second little tidbit that I will give you before we move on is there is something called melodic minor modes and melodic minor based chords. So let's say we're in A melodic minor. That gives us a minor major 7th chord. It gives us a regular B minor 7 chord, boring. It gives us a C major 7 sharp 5. It gives us, again, another boring D7 chord. Then it gives us another boring E7 chord. It gives us an F sharp half diminished 7. So, and then another half diminished 7. But that gives you actually a few more chords for your arsenal. Let's talk about method number 3. I honestly think this is super underutilized, and you should do this a lot. And that is memorize, memorize, memorize. It's just rote memorization. Well, I'm going to give you a quick way to categorize at least the triads to help you get started in this method. If you just think about the triads that are white keys only, there are 6 of them, and it's going to be the majors, which is C, F, G, and then the minors, which is A minor, D minor, E minor. If you notice, they're also 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. That's the relationship between the notes. Now we're going to go on one black key. Right in the middle is going to be A major, D major, E major. And then we have one black key in the middle for minors, C minor, F minor, G minor. Again, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. Now we go to the 2 black keys, and that's going to be A flat major, D flat major, E flat major. And then we have C sharp minor, F sharp minor, G sharp minor. Well, one last time, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. Pretty sweet. Then we have the weird ones, and I'm sorry, these follow no rules, but in some ways you can memorize them by the fact they follow no rules, and that is B major, B flat major, G flat major, and then B minor, B flat minor, and E flat minor. One notable thing is these last 2, G flat and E flat minor, they are the only chords where it's all black keys. By directly memorizing these chords, it's going to let you get right into the fun of playing music without always scratching your head about, oh, what notes are in F sharp 7? What notes are in E minor 7 flat 5? You don't have to worry about that much because you just memorize them. And there's plenty of ways to do it. You can just go by half steps, right? You can go around the circle of fifths, bajillions of different ways. Start memorizing at your level and go from there. Just learn all the major triads, then learn all the minor triads, then learn all the major 7s, so on and so forth. since we have now discussed all the methods and all the names and all the parts of the chords, I want to talk about upper extensions and alterations. First of all, upper extensions are just any notes beyond 7. We call these 9, 11, 13 when there is a 7th present. So let me say that again. Let's say I'm on A major 7, right? 1, 3, 5, 7. Then I have 9, I have 11, and I have 13. Again, we just get that by keep counting, right? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's say the 7th is not present, though. If I just have my triad, this is now 2, and this is 4, and this is 6. And you might be like, what? Well, 2, 4, 6. Making sense now? That's where the upper extensions come from. So all you have to do is spell them up. Piece of cake. Now let's talk about altered notes. These are exactly what they sound like. It is taking a note that would be normal and changing it. That's why I went through all the normal notes first. You need to know the normal notes to know then what they change to. So let's start with the most obvious one that comes up the most, and that is suspended. So you see S-U-S, sus, like all the Among Us Gen Zers say. So if something is sus in music, it is going to be, instead of the 3, it's going to be the 4. Now, sometimes people say sus 2. That's a strange thing to say, but people do say it. I'm just warning you. That's what sus 2 is. It's taking the 3 and playing the 2 instead. But for the most part, sus, especially if there's nothing after it, just means to play the 4. We're on G major. Instead of B, we're going to go to C. That's our sus. Let's talk about flats and sharps. Let's say we have a C7, flat 9. Well, this is our regular ninth. How do we know it's our regular ninth? Because of the scale. C7 is a dominant 7th chord, which means it is the 5 of F. So we're in F major. I know if that just went right over your head, too bad, I'm so sorry, but that's what we have to do. So D is our normal ninth. Well, now we're going to go down a half step. That's our flat 9. And guess what? That's our sharp 9. That is what we're doing. Finally, I just want to say, use your ears and be on the watch out for inversions. This is not a special chord. That's not a new chord. This is also not a new chord. Technically, this is an inversion, but people call this a G minor 6. It's actually an E minor 7 flat 5 or an E half diminished 7. That's what I'm talking about. There's so many exceptions to these things, but this is going to get you 99.9% of the way there. The inversions also might sound correct to your ears, but are still an inversion and not the chord. I don't know how many students I've taught where they play this and they go, oh, A minor, G major. No, it's not G major. It sounds major, but it's actually C major because, again, this is actually the root. How? Let me give you this real quick tidbit about inversions. Then we got one more thing, and then we got to get out of here. This is my tidbit on inversions. The bigger distance. Do you see how that's a 4th there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half steps, not 4. That tells you right away, I'm dealing with an inversion. Guess what? It works the same way, the opposite. There's only a 2nd there. I thought we were building chords in thirds. Well, you are right, and we're dealing with an inversion. That is your go-to sign immediately to think inversion. Well, if it sounds bad, though, let me tell you about that. If it sounds bad, most likely it's not correct, unless it's a crazy-looking chord. What if it's D flat 7, flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13. That's a gnarly sounding chord. But guess what? That's correct. But it also looks gnarly. If it looks gnarly, it's probably going to sound gnarly. If it doesn't look gnarly, it's probably not going to sound gnarly. Well, this has been a whirlwind. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like videos like this, please let me know, because this is a lot to write down and a lot to throw out there, but I'd love to give you more knowledge. So follow this channel. Comment if anything was confusing, if there was anything that was super helpful to you particularly. Let me know, and until next time, you have a great time practicing. See you later.